Hey HOA, go f yourself. That's what a lot of people want to say to their HOAs, but number one, they can't, and number two, they probably won't do that. And I know what you're thinking, well, why don't they just live in a community that's not an HOA? Well, if you're looking to move to Florida or you already live here, you probably realize most communities here in Florida and South Florida specifically are in a homeowners association or a condo association. However, just because they are doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. So let's talk about it. So when you think about South Florida, most areas here in South Florida actually do have HOAs and condo associations like I was talking about. So some of the notable ones are that of like Boca, Delray, West Palm, Pembroke Pines, Weston, you name it, there's pretty much an HOA everywhere that you look. Actually, when you look at the state of Florida in general, right around 9.65 million people actually live in an HOA community, which equates to about 45%, or it's like 44.8% of the population. So why do they decide to do it versus why do they decide not to? Let's take a deeper look at it. So honestly, living in an HOA community isn't a bad thing, whether it's a homeowners association or a condo association. So let's kind of think about where is all this money that I'm spending going to? Well, number one, it's actually usually going to security. So a lot of these communities, especially single family homes and townhomes, and I've seen quite a few condos as well, are completely gated with a manned security gate, or you have like a little fob, so like or the sticker, so if you're a resident, you can go on ahead. However, if you have guests come, they go and check in with the guard gate, then they call you like, oh yeah, go ahead and let them up, or go ahead and let them in, and you can have a guest list, which is really nice. Another thing that they take care of is usually your landscaping. So think about it, if you're living in a single family house or a townhome and you don't want to cut your grass, you don't know how to cut your grass, you don't have the things, that money that you're paying every month goes towards the landscaping. On top of that, usually there's some rules on what you can and cannot do to the exterior of your home. So it does help keep up with that pride of ownership factor. You're not gonna have a bunch of just broken down cars in your driveway. Obviously, you can have a neighbor with like 7 or 8 cars. That's not a bad thing, especially if there's some nice cars, but you're gonna have the pride of ownership. People are gonna be taking care of their homes. There's gonna be a color palette, certain colors that you can do your roof, things like that. Now, it does not let you stand out as much. However, it is nice for the overall neighborhood aesthetic. Now, another thing that you usually do get with some of these HOA dues is the amenities. Think about it. A lot of these communities are resort style. You really don't have to leave if you don't want to. You have things like the pool, clubhouse, gym. I've seen some with spas and saunas, especially when you get into some of the condos and you're right there on the beach, and things that you can have and you can enjoy. Pickleball, tennis, like all this is included every single month as part of your monthly dues. So obviously that makes kind of some sense. Like, hey, I'm not having to spend money on these other things. I just spend my $200, $300, maybe even $500 a month on my HOA dues, and all this is taken care of for me. But obviously there's gotta be a flip side, right? Oh, and yes, there is. So HOAs definitely get a bad rap. I think probably one of the number one things that we hear is absolutely nothing gets done. Imagine you spend $400 or $500 a month and it feels like nothing gets done, but they're just cutting the grass and they're letting every single person under the sun into your neighborhood. I'd be kind of pissed too. I don't blame them. Or like things in the clubhouse aren't working, stuff like that. And that definitely does happen, because just like anything else, if it's poorly run and it's poorly managed, it's gonna be crappy at the end of the day. So that's another thing you have to think about when looking at an HOA community. Another thing that really happens is some of these HOA fees are like exorbitant. Like you're paying $700, $800, $900 a month, and like, okay, what am I really getting at the end of the day? Especially when you look at condos. Some of these condo fees are ridiculous. I mean, you would be paying easily $1,400 to $1,800 a month in a condo fee, and you're not even touching your mortgage yet. And granted, some of them are some resort style buildings with some world-class amenities, but some people just can't afford that, especially if you have an assessment on top of that, which is a completely different story. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll link a link up right above about some of the issues going on with condos here in South Florida. Another thing is the Karens. So you have people who will literally go around and have nothing better to do than to try to get you in trouble with the HOA or the condo association. Like, hey, you can't do that. Hey, you can't do that. Like, look, I'm trying to do it, just don't say anything, kind of thing. Sometimes that happens, but you will have people that whine and complain and try to get you in trouble, and then you ultimately get fined, and that's not fun for anyone. I don't want to shell out any extra money just because I got in trouble. Obviously, like, I'm going to do the right thing, but like, I don't want to have to just be like looking over my shoulder at all times. Another thing, like I was talking about, is those fines. Like if you get fined, like these HOAs and condo associations, if you do anything that's against the rules, they will fine you, and they are pretty quick about it. Trust me. Like them giving you money or doing things, they take their sweet time, but giving you a fine, oh, they're all over that the minute it happens. Another thing is the parking of vehicles. And this is by far the biggest pain in the butt. This is a thing I absolutely cannot stand, especially with condo associations. And you'll really see it in Boca. I mean, they have these rules with parking. Like if you have a pickup truck, it doesn't matter if it's a personal vehicle or not, they just, nope, you can't come in. I've had plenty of showings and listing appointments and listings where I've had to literally park at a Publix like a couple blocks away, maybe even half a mile away, then walk to my appointment, just be sweating my butt off because they won't let my pickup truck in. However, we are finally going to see some changes to these HOAs, which could definitely make living in an HOA community so much better. And these go into effect on July 1st, 2024. So probably by the time you're watching this video, they've already gone into effect. And this is a part of the new House Bill 1203. So let's take a look at what's changing for these condo associations and homeowners associations. So we're not gonna be able to cover every single change that's coming, but we're gonna cover some of the biggest changes that will be happening. So the first one starts with official records. So starting in January 1st, 2026, associations with 100 or more parcels will need a digital copy of records that can be downloaded on the association website. Finally, I mean, we can do everything else online. Why is it so hard to get some of these association, like HOA docs and condo docs? That is something that we desperately needed. Next up is the criminal violations. So they're trying to limit the fraud. Obviously, you've probably heard about what happened in Miami with this association kind of siphoning money and millions of dollars and just leaving the homeowners high and dry. So we don't want that to ever happen again. So there's new rules in place to make sure it never does. So obviously, first degree misdemeanor for trying to destroy or tamper with accounting records. That sounds like a given, but obviously we had to put that one in writing. Next is a third-degree felony for willfully and knowingly refusing to release association records to avoid or escape getting in trouble. Wow, I mean, that sounds like another kind of a gimme one. Like, why would you even do that? And the last one that we're looking at is a third-degree felony for knowingly soliciting or accepting a kickback. So this should definitely help with some of these homeowners associations and condo associations. And remember, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just going off of my research online, reading through all the different bills and things that are being passed. Next up is the requirement to provide for accounting, which allows the owners to make a written request for detailed accounting of any amounts owed to the association, which I think is really nice because sometimes associations will be asking for a lot of money or they'll just be asking for things and you want to have a better understanding of why or where it's going to. So I definitely think that's a good thing. Next up is the education, and I do really like this aspect of it. So officers and directors, especially the newly elected ones, must complete an educational curriculum. And it has to be covering that of financial literacy, which I don't get why we don't do in general in school and things, but that's for a different video. Transparency, record keeping, fines, and meeting requirements. So obviously they want to make sure that everyone who's getting appointed understands what to do and how to pretty much run a business at the end of the day, because that's what an association is. On top of that, for all officers, directors, anyone in charge, they all have to go through continuing education, which I do like a lot as well. Because think about it, if you took that when you were just appointed, maybe let's call it 7 or 8 years ago, you probably forgot. Honestly, if you took it in January and it's now July, you probably forgot a lot of it too. So having to do this continuing education every couple of years will definitely help people to stay on top of things, as well as get fresh blood in there as well. Now this is where it starts to get interesting, and some of the things that I really like that are changing. Number one is the fines. So it prohibits the fines or suspension for leaving garbage cans at the curb less than 24 hours before or after garbage day, so you're welcome, and leaving holiday lights or decorations up longer than indicated in the governing documents up to 1 week. So there's a little bit of gray area in that one, but still, I mean, it gives you a little bit of leeway, about 7 extra days to get everything taken care of. Next is my favorite one, and that's the parking. So they cannot prohibit homeowners or others from parking personal vehicles, including pickup trucks, in the driveway or where they have the right to park. So now you have to let me bring my Raptor in to park, and now I can go to my appointments and not be sweating my butt off. Also, work vehicles, which is not a commercial motor vehicle in the property or owner's driveway, so you're allowed to park a work vehicle as long as it's not a commercial motor vehicle. And last, but definitely not least, is the assessments. So they're only allowing simple interest, not compound interest, to accrue on assessments and installments that are not paid when due. So this will definitely help out people, because that compound interest, number one, compound interest when you're investing is awesome. Compound interest when you owe money is terrible. So this will definitely help out a lot of homeowners and condo owners. So that's everything you need to know about some of the changes coming to the associations here in Florida. So let me know in the comments, with all these changes coming, would you want to live in an HOA community, or are you still like, hey, look, that's great, there's awesome changes, I'm happy that we're getting some movement and some progress. However, I'm still doing my own thing. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I'm gonna paint my house whatever color I wanna paint my house. I'm gonna do what I wanna do, which is still fine at the end of the day. And if you or anyone you know are looking to move to South Florida or Florida in general, we'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can call me, email me, text me, DM me, whatever it is, we got you.